Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you, Ranking Member Fox, and thank you to all of our panelists for this very interesting discussion. I've had the opportunity to visit several HBCUs, not in my state, but elsewhere, and have always been impressed with the work that they do. And this wasn't originally the where I was going to go with my questioning, but I'm going to follow up on something that Representative Banks had asked earlier. I'm a 24-year military veteran, left home at 16, the fourth of 8 kids in order to find a way to get to medical school. And so I thought it was interesting, one of the comments that you had made earlier, Ms. Saylor, in your testimony, both in your testimony, your written testimony, and then your comments to Representative Banks in trying to get young Black men into college and to address the gender gap and gender disparity. But you mentioned the HBCU's collaboration with Reserve Officer Training Courses, Corps or ROTC, on campuses to cultivate future military officers. And that said, 25% of the HBCUs currently participate in a ROTC program. Are there specific barriers preventing more HBCUs from collaboration? I think this would be a win-win both for our country, for Black men and for HBCUs.
Thank you for the question. And I have to say this as well. My husband and I have 2 children at West Point. And
oh my gosh,
we just have a special place in our heart for that type of training. I have a son, and I can't imagine wanting him in a more secure discipline program, if you will, as he's becoming a young man. But as we have at the Heritage Foundation been working with ROTC programs on HBCU campuses, one of the things that we notice and in terms of conversation about some of the barriers is, it requires funding. And we see that collaboration has come into play as a way to overcome that barrier, where you've got, like in the state of Virginia, where Hampton universities and others collaborate together and bring those university systems together to use those resources collectively. We even see that happening at institutions like Harvard and MIT, where they collaborate those resources together in order to give those students the best experience that they can have and the best exposures that they can have. And so I think it's super important as we continue to look at this as a model. There is another instance here in terms of looking at making sure that the workplace development piece is synced and lined with the need. And one of the areas where we've talked with HBCUs is that cybersecurity area is not as strong as it could be in terms of looking at military preparedness. And there are several of the institutions that are looking at how to funnel and channel and collaborate to make those areas of study stronger.
So it's interesting you're bringing that up, because Representative Bowman just talked about STEM education, and I think Mr. Perry did in his testimony as well, and the success in HBCUs in graduating in science degrees and further science degrees and computer technological. So is there something, certainly that's a value to the military. It's a value to their education, and would certainly facilitate careers in technology, in computer, in cybersecurity, which we know from recent events is critically important to our nation. So is there something that we can do in Congress to help facilitate that collaboration?
Yes, I think as we make this more and more of a priority, as we talk about policy and the need for military preparedness, I think it is especially important because it puts HBCUs again in a conversation about being an American asset that's being bolstered towards competitiveness and military preparedness. And so I think that, from a public relations standpoint and from a programmatic standpoint, it is essential for us to continue these conversations and look at policies that expand opportunities there.
Great. Thank you so much for your testimony and those of our witnesses. And Madam Chair, I yield back my time.
Thank you. Thank you so